Hi and welcome to this session on high potential measurement. As we enter March in India, it is the season for high potential assessment. It is the appraisal season, and I have personally been involved in a lot of such assessments and measurements, including running assessment centers for assessing high potentials within the organization. And I felt it would be worthwhile to discuss some of the findings, some of the scopes of improvement, and what we can do at an organization level, and especially for business managers and people managers. When we talk of any high potential assessment, we are basically looking at a person with a job role and to understand how they perform against those job role, against that particular job role. Plus add in the flavor of what are the potential they hold for further job roles, right? So now every job role is a combination of competency traits. So whether it's decision making, or it's responsibility orientation, or it's trustworthiness, or it's team player qualities, or even your reasoning capabilities, every job role is a mix of certain competencies, and these competencies have become part today of every job role, primarily because of the way work is structured and also the way life is structured. So today you have behavioral competencies, functional competencies, leadership competencies, and cognitive competencies. Cognitive are a late introduction, specifically more so post 1980s due to the impact of technology. In fact, the whole buzz about digitization is about fluency in digital competencies. So when we look at these competencies, what we are looking at is also a certain amount of symbolism. Take for example the fact that we can also replace them. Like say for example, we can look at leadership competencies that basically as role competencies and hold the role of managing people, right? Similarly, if we look at the hand competencies, basically it's denoting the functional competencies, the ability of manipulating your resource skill results. This symbolism has today got even approved and recognized by the World Economic Forum, which says that the top 10 skills of 2025 would include analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, originality and initiative, leadership and social influence, technology use, monitoring and control, technology design, programming, resilience, stress tolerance, flexibility. And all of this could again be looked at as within a framework of working with people, problem solving, technology and learning, and self-management. So when we look at all of this, we find that if we use competencies to measure among the various kind of potential that we seek to assess, we could also look at them from a hierarchy perspective, which is that for juniors we would like to look at certain kind of competencies and their potential for those future competencies, like say for example technology and sales competencies, operational, marketing, HR and finance, strategy competencies, and then once we add them further to functional competencies, cognitive competencies, behavioral competencies in a varying mix, and leadership competencies. Now, what is very important to understand is how do you assess hence potential? One of the things which you know very well that functional competencies are typically assessed through reporting manager or peer feedback. It's a very good tool to use a 360 degree over here, or whatever current performance appraisal system that you use in your current workplace, and use that to identify or nominate people for high potential screening. Then comes the next level, which is cognitive, behavioral and leadership competencies. Now, within these two things, it's very important to understand that cognitive competencies and certain parts of leadership competencies are better assessed in case you use an objective tool. Now, why are we coming to this discussion of objectivity? Because there are two ways to assess potential. One could be an objective assessment, which means that we set in a set of questions for the individual to respond to, and based on the response, which would have unique right or wrong answers, we could understand how well the individual is aware of and what are the knowledge levels. Whereas in case of certain areas like behavioral competencies of certain types and certain parts of leadership competencies which need to be observed, is where you would rather love to have a physical or an assessment center model. Now, why are we suggesting both the models? Because of the two factors. The fact that human biases could enter into the assessment center, and we have often seen that assessors come with their own set of human biases, which should not be over influencing. So which means that when you take in the case of a pure assessment center approach, the problem you could have is being subject to a lot of human bias. But when you put in a hybrid model of both the individual assessment through assessors, a physical part of it, vis-a-vis also an objective assessment, and then you club together the results to give you a very clear understanding of this person or this individual showcases these objective scores versus these subjective scores, to align them to find exactly where do they stand. Certain times individuals could also be shy, which often cocoon into their own shells in certain cases. So there's no reason for them to be subjected to only a single model. And also, as I said, that when you want to test, say for example, digitization capabilities, one of the first things I've noticed in our experience is that a lot of candidates who are digitally shy, the first and foremost objection that they have is to a digital experience, a digital assessment. It's a very good way to understand what is the level of objection people have to digitizing experiences. Once you do that, it becomes easier for all of us to then create a framework structure. Of course, if you have a competency framework structure, it would be great. I would always suggest to have a structure something like this, where you can understand, okay, what is a must have level versus what is a good to have level across various roles. This could help you organize and structure your identification of high potentials also in a better way. We have our own competency framework, which is what we call as the Global 7 A's framework. However, we could also customize and design it something for you, especially at Pexitest. We have those capabilities. We would love to discuss and help improve and increase the scope of doing a really good high potential exercise. So let's get in touch. Let's meet each other, or at least have a virtual discussion, and do let us know if you would be interested in getting a hybrid HiPo assessment done to identify your high potential candidates. Also, if you want to create framework structures which are functional yet effective in terms of competency frameworks, we would be very happy to help you out. Reach out to us. So why are we emphasizing on this importance? One of the big changes or evolutions which has happened is in the space of using HR analytics or data analytics per se to design job roles faster, define them better, to understand the difference between maturity versus contribution capabilities. It's very important that the fundamentals of any high potential exercise are understanding the level of contribution capabilities that one has in future roles or even for the present role, if they have lately been introduced to the job role, versus their maturity. If you notice, the whole framework kind of captures this in a very thorough way to understand both contribution levels in terms of behavioral, functional, cognitive and learning capabilities, and also maturity in them. It's very important that we kind of build a framework which helps to do this. What does this do? This helps you to then align further with your KPIs and KRAs and then make it into a strategic objective, right? So as you can see in this example, once you have those competencies, you have measured those people against those competencies, you have aligned them against the KRAs and hence against your BSc framework, or even if you use an OKR framework, it helps you to build a framework which basically aligns with your strategy objectives. This can then help build, this can also become the future of your appraisal system. So as you can see here, your appraisal system then becomes much more efficient in terms of capturing true high potential. You should not have basically the need to conduct a separate assessment center. You could only do it for very specific, very, very high potential candidates, right? And that could become a better way of not only managing, but also using information, using data to identify and place your high potentials in the right roles. I hope write to us at score@pexetics.com. Till then, have a nice day.